So, can we just make Vera Farmiga the mom in every horror movie? Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2009 psychological horror film, Orphan. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through today's video for all of that extra content. Orphan stars Isabelle Fuhrman, Vera Farmiga, and Peter Sarsgaard, and was directed by Jaume Collet-Serra. It tells the story of a couple, Kate and John, who, after a devastating loss, decide to adopt 9-year-old Esther, only to discover that there may be something sinister about her. I would say that the average moviegoer is pretty selective with what they watch. Most people probably only go out of their way to watch things that they think they'll enjoy, so they go in with that expectation. Of course, there are some people who go into movies expecting to dislike them, whether it be for fun in a so bad it's good kind of way, or just general hate watching, but even in that scenario, there's an expectation of an extreme. But when you're less selective, when you watch a lot of movies, hundreds and hundreds every year, you come to expect average. Some movies end up being good or great, others end up being pretty bad, but unsurprisingly, the average movie is average. Now, when Orphan first came out, nobody I knew was talking about it. There was no buzz, but there was also no hate for it either. So when I finally got around to watching it, I was very much expecting an average, creepy kid movie, but what I got was something that was anything but average. Orphan is a deceptive movie on many levels. There's deception strewn throughout the plot and nearly every character relationship, but there's also deception inherent to the film itself. It presents itself as any number of other evil child/creepy kid movies do. It leans heavily into tropes and cliches of the genre, and even of 2000s horror filmmaking in general. There are jump scares and blatant foreshadowing, and the film even opens with an over-the-top nightmare sequence. It all initially feels so predictable, because many of the smaller beats in the film are. But that's all part of the movie's deception. It lulls you into this false sense of predictability by making you think that you've got a handle on everything, only to later subvert your expectations and reveal to you that everything you thought you had figured out wasn't actually the case at all. And so, what superficially seems like a fairly average or familiar plot transforms into something unexpected and satisfying. The film is plenty creepy, and has some decent tension, especially as we start to spend more time with Esther. The movie takes its time to introduce her to us and her adoptive family, but Orphan is not a slow burn like a lot of other heavy setup films are. In fact, it's really not that long before the tension and bloody moments of horror start to kick in. And when they do, they just build upon each other to paint this broader picture. With a runtime clocking in a hair over 2 hours, this movie is a bit longer than other similar types of horror films. It's not a huge deal, but with how repetitive certain aspects of the plot get, especially towards the end, it probably could have used a little trimming. When it comes to creepy kid movies, generally, you're given some creepy kids, and that's about it. It's not usually a subgenre used for social commentary or elevated thematic concepts. They're just meant to be creepy and scary. And although Orphan achieves this, it does have some unexpected emotional thematic heft driving it, especially when it comes to grief and family trauma. Now, I'm not saying it explores these themes at the level of Hereditary or anything, but it does incorporate them in a meaningful way, beyond your average horror movie. Definitely not much of a promo for adoption, though. The story and themes both have unexpected elements, but one of the biggest things that's decidedly not average here are the performances. Horror movies aren't always known for their acting, especially when kids have very prominent roles. And there are some child performances here that aren't the best, but there are also a few that are incredibly solid. Peter Sarsgaard and Vera Farmiga are great as the couple who adopt Esther. Sarsgaard doesn't have too much to work with for his character, but Farmiga was able to really dig into the grief and paranoia of Kate and deliver another standout horror movie mom performance. But the true star here is Isabelle Fuhrman as Esther. Sinister and creepy is hard enough for adult actors, but Fuhrman was able to perfectly capture that and more at only 12 years old. I can't really go into as much detail as I'd like to when talking about the impressiveness of her performance because of the spoiler implications, but when you see the movie, you'll understand, and I think feel the same way about Fuhrman's work here. And speaking of spoiler implications, don't worry, this is a spoiler-free review as always, so I'm not going to give anything away, but this movie takes a very interesting and unexpected turn. The first time you watch this film, I think it does a pretty good job of misleading you. So when the film's twist is revealed, you feel kind of blindsided, because it wasn't what you were building up in your head at all. But for me at least, this is one of those movies that's satisfying on rewatch, even after knowing the twist, because it doesn't cheat. Along with the obvious foreshadowing for the more cliche horror moments, the movie also drops plenty of hints that are only given their full context on rewatch. I will say, though, that if the twist doesn't work for you, then it'll probably ruin the whole movie for you. That said, if you haven't seen the movie yet, and you don't know the twist, go watch it right now so it doesn't get spoiled for you. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro has got to be the performances. I'll admit that this isn't something that often makes its way onto the pros for me when I'm talking about a horror movie, but it's well deserved here, especially for the three primary women of the film. It comes as no surprise by now that Vera Farmiga is able to deliver incredibly strong and emotional horror performances. But this movie also showcases a few relative newcomers too. Aryana Engineer plays the youngest daughter, Max, in her first film role, and is remarkably good. But the real standout here is Isabelle Fuhrman as Esther, giving a creepy, layered, and very precise performance that truly makes this movie what it is. Pro number 2 is the story. So I think some people might look at this and think I'm a little crazy, because elements of the plot do predictably follow the major tropes of the genre. But it's crafted in a way that lulls horror fans into a state of fulfilled expectations, only to subvert those expectations during the third act, with one of the more wild but satisfying twists in recent horror memory. On the con side, the biggest issue is how repetitive this film gets. It takes its time to set the stage and introduce the characters, so things get off to a somewhat slow start, but once we're into the second act, it starts to get a bit more exciting from a horror standpoint. It never gets boring, but the movie does fall into a bit of a pattern when it comes to these horror moments, and the specific reactions of some of the central characters. Again, not really bad, just unnecessary and redundant. And with a runtime of over 2 hours, for a horror movie like this, some of that redundancy could have been trimmed without affecting the story. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Orphan or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Orphan 4 out of 5 paws. I was on the edge between 3.5 and 4, but I gave it the bump up because I consistently enjoy this one even on rewatch. The story and runtime could have been tightened up a bit, but it's got a compelling plot, a satisfying twist, and a killer performance by Isabelle Fuhrman. I would recommend Orphan to people who like psychological horror or creepy kid movies. This is a film that'll be able to deliver on a lot of the genre tropes that you may be expecting, while also providing you with a very different and unexpected turn. If you liked Orphan, I would recommend The Good Son. Although more thriller than horror, and without the shocking twist, there are some plot and character similarities between this creepy kid thriller starring Macaulay Culkin and Orphan. If you want another recent horror film with a twist, you might want to check out The Boy. It's more standard in its scares, but it falls into the creepy kid horror subgenre, in a way. And if you liked Isabelle Fuhrman's performance here, you've got to watch The Novice. It's not a horror movie this time, but she plays an intense and exceptionally motivated college rower in this dark psychological sports drama. Alright, a couple of questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Orphan? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what movie do you think has the most shocking twist? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe or at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.